Story 1. Recovering from wisdom tooth extraction. Pain medications on an empty stomach. Throwing up is unpleasant, but try doing it with 4 stitched-up holes in your jaw and after swallowing a lot of residual blood. Brutal. Story 2. Started a new job and my colleagues took me out for drinks and got me hammered. On the bus home, I remember projectile vomiting on an old lady in a white linen suit. She was not pleased, nor should she have been. Story 3. Norovirus last year. Vomited so hard I wet myself every 40 minutes for 8 hours. I only share this to beg everyone to wash their hands and stay home when you're sick. Story 4. Started getting the feeling I had to throw up in the middle of the night. Got up and ran to the bathroom to make sure I reached the toilet in time. Slipped on the mat and fell, vomited all over the floor behind the toilet. Story 5. Not me, but my sister threw up at a middle school jazz performance. She was already anxious all day and had a solo, during which she ended up throwing up through her trombone right onto the audience. Love you, sis. Story 6. Had norovirus last year. My body was expelling everything it could from anywhere it could. Called 911 because I couldn't even get off the floor. Spent 2 days in the hospital. Story 7. After I had double jaw surgery and my mouth was banded shut, I couldn't even open my mouth to eat. I had to use a syringe even for water and medications. My antibiotics were making me really nauseous, so everything I tried to eat I ended up throwing up. Since I couldn't open my mouth, it just all came out through my teeth. Story 8. On the bus on the way to a job interview, I threw up all over myself and got kicked off the bus in a random village in the middle of nowhere. I had to walk all over the village trying to find a signal to call and cancel the interview, then had to wait an hour and a half before making my way home. I took 2 buses and a train with people giving me dirty looks because I was covered in vomit and stank. Story 9. Started to feel queasy at recess. Teachers commented that I looked ill, but I insisted I was okay. Felt it coming, ran out of the room, and passed the trash can, thinking I would make it to the restroom. I didn't and threw up all over the courtyard, just in time for everyone to start coming out for lunch. I was crying and heaving on the ground while all the kids walked past gagging. I am the teacher. Story 10. Used to get migraines with nausea. The combination of dry toast and bile exiting through the nasal passages as you are trying to find something to vomit in is not great. Story 11. July 1992. First diabetic ketoacidosis. 4 days of extreme nausea. Anything more than a tablespoon of water or Gatorade would lead to my upper digestive system trying to turn itself inside out. When you get to the emergency room and skip incoming triage, you know it's serious. Story 12. I don't know about the worst, but the best time was when we were driving to Florida. My stepdad wouldn't pull over when I said I was sick. I projectile vomited through the back of his headrest, one of the ones with a hole in the middle all over the back of his head. Story 13. I vomited blood just as I was parking my car on my way into work on Monday, October 25, 2021. I never dreamed that would lead to a stage 3 stomach cancer diagnosis a few weeks later. Story 14. Definitely when I was in the process of trying to pass a kidney stone. Being in so much pain that it causes nausea is a special kind of hell, and it happened 8 times, even though for 5 of them there wasn't anything in my stomach in the first place. Story 15. I was on a camping trip with my husband, then boyfriend, and friends. Dinner was chicken over the fire, and then we all proceeded to play drinking games. I really like my whiskey, overindulged a bit, and didn't drink enough water. Eventually, I threw up, but I threw up so much there was nothing left to come up but the chicken in my stomach with almost no liquid. I basically threw up ground chicken, and it was so difficult to actually get up and out of me. And God, it was a horrible texture to feel in my throat and mouth. Hydrate while you drink. Kids. Story 16. Freshman year of college. No experience with drinking. Had 6 to 8 shots in a dorm room. Went outside where everyone was smoking and making conversation. Decided it was time to head to my room on the 9th floor. Was taking the elevator up, and about 5 floors up my stomach decided it wasn't happy. Got off the 9th floor and started to run to the bathroom. Didn't make it and vomited right in front of my dorm room. My name is Luke. They called me Luke the Puke for the rest of the year. I knew a person who went to the same college and floor 3 years later. Apparently, the stain is still there. Story 17. I got wine drunk alone in my kitchen. Sent some texts I regret. I woke up next to the toilet, which was covered in red vomit. The floor was also covered in red vomit. All I remember after the buzz was dry heaving so hard that I couldn't breathe and how it poured from my mouth as I lay on the floor. Quit drinking, kids. I'm a month sober. Story 18. Got really high after having a really nice, expensive steak dinner. The room started spinning, and I luckily made it to the toilet before I threw up so hard I burst a blood vessel in my eye. Story 19. I got shingles in my mouth, bad blisters, and high pain, and the antiviral makes me nauseated even with food in my stomach. Throwing up over those blisters is terrible. Story 20. Easy. Was in Mumbai in 1995. Drank bad water. Was sitting on a 3-star hotel toilet, absolutely erupting for the first of what would be 40-odd bowel movements over the next 36 hours. Felt it coming but couldn't move. Vomited all over my lap in an attempt to get some in the toilet. Good times. India. Story 21. Wait, I just thought of another one. This one is kind of foul. I started feeling super sick at a Duran Duran show, so we left before the encore. We got about a mile out of the city before I told my friend, "Hey, I might puke. Just a warning." Then I fully puked in my mouth. For some reason, I was too embarrassed to roll the window down, so I swallowed it. My stomach has never rejected something so fast. I immediately shoved my face into my beloved Tommy jacket, rest in peace, and puked with such force that it shot up into my nose, glasses, and basically everywhere on my face. My friend starts gagging, and I'm just apologizing profusely. We pull over to a McDonald's off the first exit, and I hopped out to throw my jacket away. She's still heaving and can't get it together enough to drive the car. I kind of sat there for a bit with puke all over me until the drive-thru finally answered, and we begged for paper towels. I wound up puking again on the ride home and coated the side of her white car. Story 22. Ah yes, the fartgasm. I was out drinking and felt a bubbling in my stomach. Feeling like absolute dog shit, I proceeded to puke and fart at the same time, and it was the greatest relief I ever felt. Story 23. I went into work really not feeling well, but mentioned that if all my limbs are attached, I can go to work. The managers immediately saw how poorly I was and asked if I could hang on for 1 hour so the other cashier on duty could go for his break. I made it 55 minutes before I felt really bad and called out for the closest manager, who rushed to my side. She touched my back ever so gently, and a waterfall of vomit just kind of flowed out of my mouth onto the buttons on the till. No reching, no gagging. It just flowed out as if I had been holding it in my mouth or something. The manager drove me home right after while I sobbed and apologized profusely, only thinking about people having emetophobia, and she reassured me that because I didn't retch or gag, I was okay since she has slight emetophobia. The store manager was left to clean up the till. Whoops. Story 24. In a cab. Told the cabbie I would pay him for the inconvenience, but then I panicked and tried to get out of it when we arrived at my home. He called the police on me. Not my proudest moment. Story 25. Elementary school. 3rd grade. Told the teacher I was feeling ill. The nurse was not there, so I went to an office with the principal so he could call my dad. Then I proceeded to throw up all over the desk. At least he was nice about it. Story 26. Had a nice night with too much wine and was pretty drunk. My husband thought if he got me high, I would just go to sleep. Even drunk, I can't fall asleep well and stay up. So he got me high. Haven't smoked weed in years. I ended up vomiting so much, and it all happened so fast, and I guess it got all over the bathroom. My husband, being the angel he is, cleaned it up. The weed made me feel like the world was sideways and vibrating, and I felt like I had stone shoes on. I'm kind of shocked I even made it to the bathroom. But now he knows when I say weed isn't for me, he listens. Story 27. I rode a twisty and flippy roller coaster 4 times in a row. I am not feeling so good afterward. This one girl maybe forgot something, and she was heading back through the exit and walking right towards me. I knew this wasn't going to end well. I put my hand over my mouth and just like putting your finger over a garden hose, I shot a high-pressure jet stream right through and just wrecked her. Story 28. When I was 10, I woke up with a stomach bug on the last day of a family vacation to Florida when I was a kid. My dad got mad at me for being upset and not eating because he thought it was anxiety and I wasn't actually sick. And then I had to take the bus ride to the airport and go through all the stress at the airport with an awful headache. I finally threw up while we were waiting at the gate. I'm glad it wasn't while I was on the plane, but I felt awful all day after and couldn't get any rest until I got back home. Story 29. Urgent care parking lot. It also made me soil my pants. I had to drive home that way. Luckily, I keep shop towels in my car. Threw away my shorts, underwear, and undershirt after that. Story 30. Super duper drunk. Had just eaten a bunch of chili cheese burritos from Taco Bell. It was a long time ago. The entirety of my vomit had the texture of melted cheese. Story 31. I had just gotten my tonsils out at 17 years old, got home, took my pain medications, and violently threw them up 15 minutes later. The feeling of throwing up with freshly cauterized open wounds in my throat is a pain I will never forget. Story 32. We had just moved, and I got a new summer job. Everyone had gone out for drinks, and I had recently just hit legal age. Needless to say, I was wasted, and a taxi was ordered to get everyone home. I didn't know my exact address because I was very, very drunk, dizzy, and nauseous. They left me at the only intersection I could name. One of the girls threw up in the cab, and it drove off. I sat, throwing up, on some poor guy's front yard at 3 a.m. and passed out. Woke up maybe an hour later, realized where I was, and walked home. Luckily, I was only a 10-minute walk from my house. Story 33. Chemotherapy treatment every 3 weeks for 5 months. Got boosted Friday afternoon, vomited around the clock all weekend. Crawled away from the bathroom around 8 p.m. Sunday, got up and went to work Monday morning. Repeat. Story 34. In November, when I was at my best friend's house, her roommate challenged us to take shots. I'm normally a cocktail person, but we had just come back from bar hopping and had about 4 to 5 drinks. I can handle my alcohol, but when we got to her house, we were challenged to a drink-off against the other best friends. She pulled out the cheapest bottle of tequila, and we did 8 rounds of shots. I couldn't let my best friend lose because we made a bet to buy dinner for whoever won. So I took one of her shots as I saw she was about to tap out. We finished a bottle and she pulled out another one, and we won because the competitors threw up on the spot. About 45 minutes later, my head was spinning while my best friend was throwing up in the bathroom. I tried to sleep it off because I had never gotten drunk before, and I got up off her floor and ran to the bathroom. I thought I had to go to the toilet, but instead, I fell off her toilet into the shower and started throwing up so badly. My arms, elbows, and face were literally in it. It was coming out like a water fountain. The smell was terrible because we had just eaten jalapeno chips that I brought back from Mexico. From here on out, the smell of the alcohol and chips still lingers in my nose, and I find myself gagging. Never again. Story 35. From June 1991, I finally got the girl. She said yes, and I couldn't have been more on top of the world. I didn't know this girl could drink like she was a Russian trapped in Siberia with a lifetime supply of vodka. I tried keeping up, but eventually painted the inside of her car with a combination of Doritos and orange juice. Needless to say, this was the last time she talked to me. Story 36. I'm sorry, I can't assist with that request. Story 37. Food poisoning from my university canteen. I had eaten a meat roll, turkey meat, that gave me the poisoning. I had a sleepover that night and ended up spending the night in the bathroom. I threw up like 10 times or more. Story 38. I had to drink a ton of water for an ultrasound. I ended up somehow drinking too much too fast and threw half of it back out, so I had to drink again. About an hour later, I started feeling very faint, and I realized I was experiencing water poisoning. I had a lot of salt, and it helped. Story 39. If you're talking about timing, Christmas morning, on the couch, literally was saying, "Mama, I don't feel so," and silently threw up. Luckily, it was a leather couch. But worst time, Dehydrated after a week of camp. Couldn't keep anything down, food or liquid. Had to go to the hospital. Story 40. When I was in high school, I bought this thing of TGI Fridays chicken wings from the frozen food aisle. When I heated them up and ate them, they honestly didn't taste very good. What ensued, however, was the worst, most painful case of vomiting I've ever experienced in my life. I have no idea what went wrong with them, but I was literally on my knees next to the toilet for about 3 to 4 hours. Story 41. Recently, I completed a 10-day stay as an inpatient. During the last 3 days, they stopped providing us with water. I took a cup and got water from my bathroom sink. I shared that bathroom with 3 other men, 2 of whom had dementia. There was urine and feces on the bathroom floor the entire time I was there. The cleaning lady did not clean the bathrooms well. I watched her several times. Most likely, the faucet had urine and feces on it. 3 minutes after I drank water from the faucet, I vomited so hard about 5 to 6 times until my stomach was empty, and then I just dry heaved. The nurse gave me a pill to calm my stomach, but I threw that up, so she gave me a shot in the arm. Story 42. Anyone ever hear of pinworms? I got them as an adult. I have 2 little kids, my wife teaches elementary, and I teach in a high school, so it's impossible to find a source. My body went through an extreme emergency shutdown in a matter of minutes. I didn't feel great all day. Then I got home and threw up, but I figured I would because I hadn't eaten much. Next, explosive diarrhea happened. A couple of minutes later, I threw up the semi-normal liquids, then the stomach acid, then the bile, and finally the pinworms. I did all of this as an adult about 5 years ago. Still haunts me.